Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Orthodoxy Questions and Answers, the show where we try to answer your questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll make something up. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's the opposite of what we try to do.
That's right. That's the opposite. But truly, the show where you won't get my opinion, you'll just get what
the church states.
What the church states. I got to be careful with that because, Orthodoxy, again, as you know, right? It's tough to nail anybody down to one single thing, right? If you ask something here, you'll get a different answer in Greece, a different answer in Romania, a different answer in California, right? So
that foreign country of California.
That foreign country of California. So welcome back, Presbytera. So we're ready for another evening of back and forth.
All right, I'm ready.
I'm ready. Okay, am I ready?
Well, first we had a viewer last week highly suggest that you watch Top Gun Maverick, and you mentioned earlier that you saw it.
So Terry,
for the benefit of our viewer, what did you guys think?
Well, speaking for myself, I just said you only get the church's opinion. I can't give you the church's opinion on Maverick, so I'll have to give you my opinion.
There's no official Orthodox doctrine on Top Gun?
Yeah, we'd have to go into the doctrine of war and the whole thing, and I think it's more time than we've got for the show.
I don't think he would be eligible for St. Cruz,
So I don't think that's gonna happen.
We already have a St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
Well, Apostle Thomas.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it could be
the doubting Thomas.
Okay,
that guy.
but how does that?
Tom.
Oh, Tom. Oh, Tom. Okay, all right. Man, oh man. So starting off the evening slow. So, my personal opinion, and again, being a pilot and being former military, out of 10, I give the movie a 12.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was a great movie. Very low, almost nil on the CGI. Right? Was there?
There was, but it was very little. I mean, most of the stunt work was real.
Was real. Good story with a good ending.
Don't give anything away.
Right. I thought the military was portrayed very well. There was a mix of both male and female pilots, and the show didn't focus on that whatsoever. There was no competition there, sexism, nothing like that. They were just all soldiers. So, in this case, airmen, right? All right. So I personally thought, that's definitely a movie that I'm seeing again. What do you think?
I thought it was excellent. Yes, liked it a lot. It was not disappointing. We watched the night before. We watched the original Top Gun.
Yes, and you changed your opinion on Val Kilmer. Kilmer, right?
Yes, I liked his character.
We understood his character better, right?
Now that we're old,
older.
So definitely worthwhile to go see.
Good.
Just hearing Danger Zone on IMAX was awesome, as far as I'm concerned. Worth the price to see it then.
You have to see it in the theater. Have to see it in the theater.
Right.
It's not the same.
Oh yeah. It's not a movie for DVD. That's for sure. And there was even that Val Kilmer character, the one who rescues them at the end. Oh, so don't say anything. Spoiler alert. Okay. And he has that great line where he says,
"Okay, wait, that's good. That's good." Yeah. It's enough.
That was the weirdest part at the end. And then when they accidentally bombed Disneyland, I didn't see that coming.
Did not see that.
I know they went way off course.
They really did. But the Val Kilmer character played by Goofy, that I did not expect that. Although on a serious note, Val Kilmer, the actual Val Kilmer, his exit, his last scene in the film was very good.
Yes.
He had one scene, but it was great.
Yeah, let me tell you about that one. In fact,
should we move on?
Okay.
We should move on.
All right. So today, on September 1st, we are celebrating one of the figures of the Old Testament. Now, his original name, and I'm going to read it in the Hebrew here. All right. So just give me a second. All right. Very, very famous, all right? And his name is Oshea. That was his original name. Now, this is not the name that Moses gave him, all right, but Joshua, that is the that was what he was, but he was given another name. Who am I talking about? What are you laughing at?
It was kind of easy.
That's the most obvious thing you can possibly. Joshua? Come on.
It's named, for the ossuary. Oshawa. Ooh, they'll never get that.
They'll never. Okay.
With Moses too? Wow.
Who could it be?
What was it? Or doing the contest, you're asking like these two very specific questions, and today it's who's Joshua?
Oh.
Wow. Anyway, who can ever guess that?
There we go, Aaron, Joshua.
Okay.
Thank
you. Well, not everything can be difficult on this show. I mean, all right.
You can be. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm
yes,
kidding.
I can be difficult.
I have one for you for next week. What's the name of the Christian holy book?
Yes, right. Yeah. All right. So
it rhymes with tribble.
Well, I thought it was unique because what was our video that we filmed today?
We did film the first. We're filming the virtual Sunday schools, which are returning mid-September. September 18th is the date, if I remember correctly. But we've already filmed a few, and today we're filming the first part of a Joshua trilogy.
Mm-hmm. No. So.
All
right. So anyway, that's our fun and games for today. That's. After that kind of hard question, I guess.
Yes. All right. Shall we
Let's
move along?
Maybe
the questions would be more difficult than. Yeah. All right. First up, Frank Pontone.
Frank, how we doing?
I am looking for a really nice hardcover or leather-bound Orthodox Bible. Can you please recommend one, as well as a nice hardcover copy of the Pedalion? Thank you very much. Or the Pedalion Rudder.
For those, let me just very quickly.
Because the original Orthodox study Bible that came out, what was that, 15 years ago, something like that, that only had the New Testament and the Psalms, and then they updated it.
That's the one I'm going to show you. Okay, so that's what he's talking about.
Nobody can see that.
Oh, you can't see that?
It's just a white screen.
Oh.
Read it.
Okay, so the Pedalion was Orthodox canon law. So it's not. It is tradition. Okay, but it is scripturally based, but it is canon law. All right, so it is the Orthodox source of canon law, and it was written, I believe, and I'm just checking here. Saint Nicodemus of Mount Athos. So there are hardcover copies available. I thought that I had it electronically from Holy Cross Seminary. I'm still looking for it. If I have that PDF, I can send that along. But a hardcover edition, I'd probably check with people like Abe Books. Certainly Amazon is worth a shot, but Abe Books is also a good source.
How do you spell that?
ABE. Abe
Books.
Abe Books.
Like Abraham.
As far as the Bible goes, you've seen me show this on the show. The Orthodox Study Bible, as President mentioned, the first one was just the New Testament, and some of the commentary was not as good. But the commentary in this was actually passed through by the professors at Holy Cross Seminary. So there was actually a communication and a working together of the biblical scholars at the seminary, together with the American Bible Society, and this then is also the edition of the Old Testament. So you have both of them in this nice hardcover edition. We don't have it leather bound, but this is and again, good price, about $50, and again, easily obtainable on
The marketplace, right?
On the marketplace, on the Orthodox marketplace, or Amazon also. The other one that I like, which is pretty good, is the New Jerusalem Bible. So doesn't have commentary, but I like the way that the New Jerusalem, and that's the one that we used in seminary also, and it presents the material fairly well, especially in the Old Testament. So those are my two recommendations.
All right. Okie dokie. Nicholas asks, what is the difference between the Catholic liturgical calendar and the Orthodox liturgical calendar?
Actually, so the one main difference is that during the Paschal season, we celebrate Pascha, obviously, according to the Julian calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. However, together with the Catholics, the Greek Archdiocese here in America celebrates Christmas according to the Gregorian calendar together with the Catholic Church. Now, most of the saint days and the feast days are the same. The feast days, the 12 feast days, are the same. Some of the feast days, or most of the feast days, are the same, but there's a couple of them that are celebrated on different days a couple of months apart. Why that's done for every single one, I'm not really sure. We'd have to look at particular ones.
Is Transfiguration one of them?
See, I thought Transfiguration was one that was celebrated together, but I think maybe you're right, because when I mentioned it to Lena, our secretary who's Catholic, and I said, "Hey, we're celebrating Transfiguration," she says, "No, I think we've already celebrated that."
Yeah, because doesn't the Feast of Transfiguration, doesn't it take place outside of the?
Yes, August 6th for us.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Is that the one that we moved because it's a joyful?
Yeah.
And maybe the Catholic Church
yes.
didn't?
Yeah, and I think that could be it, because originally we had the Transfiguration as 40 days before Pascha, but because Transfiguration is a joyful event, the Orthodox Church decided to move it 40 days before Holy Cross, because it was a much more festival time. It's after Pascha. So I think you're right. I think that was one where we ended up moving it for the reasons of what we're trying to celebrate in light of what's happening during Lent. And so that would be a good example.
And then is it the Catholic Church that does the Stations of the Cross?
And it is the Catholic Church that does the Stations of the Cross.
When is that is that considered a major?
No, I don't think that's. I think that's just a rite or a tradition that is done, but is not necessarily celebrated on a special day.
And we do have, if you do a quick search on our channel for the word calendar, we did do an entire video dedicated to the subject
Of the differences?
of the calendars.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We've done a lot of videos.
And then a follow-up question from Nicholas is, does the Catholic Church have the same feast days as the Orthodox Church? And then you answered that, I guess. Here, you can finish that off.
I'm trying to think of some. Okay. So for example, the Immaculate Conception of the Theotokos, we would not celebrate that because doctrinally we do not celebrate that. So that is a feast day that they would celebrate that we don't have. The adoration of the Eucharist, I don't want to call it a necessarily a feast, but it is brought at certain times. We don't have that. So yes, there are certain feasts that they do celebrate that we don't celebrate as Orthodox.
All right. Next up, T-Bear Atlanta. Hi from Atlanta. I have a two-part question. First question, my mom wants to be buried with her wedding crowns. Is that allowed in the Orthodox Church? And if so, where would I place them in the casket?
So yes, 100%. Actually, that's the tradition is that there's a couple of different traditions, and it all depends upon your region and what you do. Normally speaking, the crowns are buried, or in one situation, the crowns are buried with the last person that dies, the spouse, and then they are placed on her chest or on his chest, okay? The other custom that I've seen is that when the one spouse dies, they cut the ribbon and one crown is placed with the spouse and then the other is placed with the other spouse. So I've seen both of those traditions. The more common one is that the crowns are buried with the last spouse that passes away, and like I said, you just lay that on her chest, his chest.
All right. Okay. And the second question, she also wants to have the icon of St. Nicholas in the casket at the time of the funeral that was given to her by my yaya when she married Dad. Thank you, Ted.
So,
Teddy bear.
yes, I have that all the time. There is a favorite icon that the person has, and that icon, I place that at the head, so there, so like there would be like the casket here, right? Okay, you'd be lying there, big casket.
You're getting rid of me already. Wow.
So here's the outline, and I'd place like the icon like right there, okay? And then people can reverence that when they come up. But typically, we do not bury the icon with the person because theologically it doesn't make any sense. As you've probably heard me mention before, if I'm going to visit, let's say I'm going to visit, Terry's mom, I'm not going to take a picture of Terry's mom with me because I am visiting the actual person. This is a remembrance of who it is that I miss. So the picture has no value when I'm standing in the presence of the person. And this is the same idea that when you're standing within the presence of Christ and the saints, you don't need a picture of them. So we do not bury a person with an icon.
All right. Harvey Codia asks, in regards to Holy Communion, are you also using Catholic Mass wine?
Oh, no. There's nothing too good for God. So me personally, I use Commanderia. I use the wine from Cyprus. Commanderia is a nice 14% wine. When you add water, it doesn't dilute. It still tastes like wine. So I'm very, very particular about the wine that I use. And that is, so if parishioners are listening, it's the Commanderia. Now, whether you buy St. John's Commanderia or you buy St. Nicholas Commanderia, it doesn't matter to me, but I like to stay with Commanderia. And I do that because from week to week, people want a consistent taste. And especially when you're talking about younger children. If you keep changing the flavor because somebody buys you Mavrodaphne and then they buy you Mogan David and then they buy you whatever they buy you, it changes, and that can be confusing for a child if they get used to a certain flavor. So you pick one flavor and you stay with it.
You said there's different Commanderias?
There's two different Commanderias.
Is it made by the same company? But
well, it's distributed by the same company. I don't know if it's made.
Is there a difference in the two wines?
No, not really. I mean, the other one that's now becoming very, very popular is Nama. And actually, in the pre-service book, it actually speaks about Nama as the wine to be used, and they just took that from it. So the reason I don't use Nama myself is because it is like very, very sweet. So on a sweetness scale, Commanderia is like there, and Nama is kind of like there, and that's a little bit too sweet for my taste. And since I am consuming the rest of the communion at the end of the service, I get to pick the wine I like.
No.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
All right. Robert Jarman asks, sorry, but I really need to know, is Bartholomew still Orthodox?
Yes, the answer is yes. Now I know that people have accused him of being the Antichrist together with the Pope because of the practices of ecumenism. That's really where he's suffering. Is that and in fact there's even a book on my shelf here. Wait a minute.
Time for show and tell.
Time for show and tell. Oh God, give me just one. I have it up here just because,
Ooh.
The struggle against ecumenism. All right. So, and the idea being that, why are we partnering with those who wish to dilute our faith and reduce us to something that we're not? And so Patriarch Bartholomew has taken a large hit for that. The Orthodox Church has never been a church that practices isolationism. Okay, we are a church that Jesus Christ left to serve in the world. He didn't take us out of the world, so we're still here. So we have to engage with the world. So to say we don't want to talk to anybody else is just flat out foolishness, because we're not supposed to live in isolation. All right. So in that sense, that's one of the big things that people are accusing him for not being Orthodox. There are a couple of other things, about the stand that he's taken. Now, I'm not recommending that book necessarily. I'm just showing that there are books that are being published about, that we have to struggle against ecumenism, right? Stand on ecology and his environmentalism position. And most recently, I'm sure that he's taking a hit because of the situation with the baptism that happened with Archbishop Elthidiaphorus. So, he still remains Orthodox, and Scripture has told us, and especially St. Paul has told us to be obedient to those who are in authority above us. All right, and so we have to trust that Bartholomew was selected by the Holy Spirit and that the Holy Spirit continues to operate within him, okay? And we may not be able to see the full extent of what he is trying to do, but there's nothing wrong with us extending ourselves to society without sacrificing who it is that we are as Orthodox.
So, how many patriarchs have been removed because they strayed too far from Orthodoxy? And secondly,
that was the question I was supposed to look up.
And so how do we know? I'm not saying that our patriarch is not. It's just a question. That how do we know if they have strayed too far today? And that the Holy Spirit is no longer.
Well, because the Orthodox Church will do what the Orthodox Church has always done, and if the cry from the laity is great enough, it will warrant then a synod of bishops who will evaluate him for those things that he stands accused of. So there is a procedure for the removal of a bishop. I mean, at the end of the day, he is a bishop, okay? There's a procedure for that, okay? And that synod of bishops will evaluate what he is being accused of and then make a determination of whether he then is declared a heretic and then should be removed. Either he repents of what he's done or he's removed.
All right. And then a follow-up question by Robert asking, is the Patriarch of Constantinople a heretic now?
No. At this point, he is not a heretic because just because laity says he is does not make him. If I say, and you've very famously said this, if I say that the sky is green, that doesn't mean that the sky is green. Okay, so just because a voice is shouting does not necessarily make that the voice of truth. So the only time he can be declared a heretic is when the synod of bishops comes together and declares him to be a heretic on that particular point. And remember, throughout Orthodox history, we have had saints who have been declared heretics for something that they've said. They've recanted that, and they're still now a saint. Okay, I mean, so this is not something brand new, that every saint has been absolutely holy. And again, I don't want to confuse that by want to correct if I said it. It certainly didn't mean that that the patriarchs are above the saints or anything like that. But the saints, Augustine is an example, Origen is an example, St. John Chrysostom is an example, St. Basil is an example, of St. Nicholas, right? Punching out the guy, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they've all done things. Some have done heretical things, others have done things that are inappropriate for clergy to do, but they have recanted or repented, and they've come back in.
All right. Jack, Sage Phoenix, he greets you in, I think that might be Romanian, I'm not sure.
It's Esperanto. Good evening. Esperanto. Good evening to you too, Jack.
Esperanto. Ooh.
How do you pronounce that?
No, Bonan Vesperon I'll see you.
And I'll see you too.
Yeah.
So Jack's first question.
Romanian Klingon, that's what it is.
That's right. Could be a little Gaelic in there too. Jack, first question. What is the role of saints in Orthodoxy? Are they intercessionary? I think it means
intercessionary.
Intercessionary. Are they models for us to emulate?
Yes, both. The saints stand as intercessors for us, with our chief intercessor being the Lady Theotokos. Okay, but they are not mediators in any way. There is only one mediator, and that is Jesus Christ. So we are careful with the language that they can intercede on our behalf, but they do not mediate. All right. So yes, they do serve that purpose, but at the same time, they are models and examples. At least, as I've just mentioned, models and examples of things that have done that are proper. Okay. So unlike much of the good things that Origen has done, we don't follow Origen as an example and castrate ourselves.
Well, I'm sure all the men out there are happy to hear that. And they are for us to emulate. Other than that, all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got a question from Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Ah,
How about that?
wow.
Is deceit permitted if it is for a good cause? King Jehu, I think, deceived Baal worshippers by gathering them under the guise of making a sacrifice to Baal, but then they slaughtered them all.
We actually just wrestled with this in the Sunday school video that we did, and this was with Rahab and the spies, because she hid the spies and then let them escape, and then when the king's soldiers came in and said, "Hey, where are they?" she said, "They left. I don't know where they went. Have a beer?" And so we wrestle with that in terms of there are situations where deceit is necessary. It's a tough thing. One of the things you had said earlier today is that in the case of saving a life, then we can see that maybe lying is required. I mean, if you have a room full of kids, right, and this gunman is looking for them, right, and you say no, the kids are down there. I mean, that is a lie, but you are using it for righteous purposes. Okay?
Is that in that case a lie? I don't know.
It is. The kids are not there, right? I mean, it's a lie.
For something like that, I wouldn't call that a lie. I'd say he misled them, but I wouldn't put that in a category of lying because it deserves a false.
Well, it's a saving of life.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what do we make of this? What do we make of the situation where many of the Old Testament writings where they are deceived, like the one where they got them drunk, right?
No,
they circumcised them all, and then the next day they killed them all, right? Okay, so that was under false pretenses, right? Okay.
Worst hangover ever.
Yeah, that's so getting back to the question, there are situations where deceit is allowable. Let's put it that way.
Intent. I think it comes down to intent. If you're intending to lie for a vile purpose, for an ill intent, then I think that is the lie that, when we think of the negative connotation of the word lie, that tends to be what we think. But if I'm I'm back in World War II, and I have some Jews under in the basement, and
right.
the Nazis show up, and I'm like, God told me not to lie. I guess I'm gonna have to give them up.
Yeah, right, right.
I honestly think that really comes down to intent, and God knows what your intent is.
Mm-hmm. Right. So at that point, it's, as the Orthodox always say, it's very situational, right? And intent, I think, is a good way to say that. But I think in most of the cases where we're saving a life, right, then I think certainly deceit is it would have been an admirable quality.
Okay.
That's why you all love Zorro.
Now sometimes there is intent to hide. There's intent to deceive, and the person that's being protected does not want that. Okay. Jesus is our ultimate example, right? Many, many times he was told to hide, or don't worry, we'll take you out. You're not, and he's like, no, that's not what I'm here. Why I'm here. That's the most classic example, and probably the other one that comes to mind is Irenaeus when the bishop of Lyons, and he was being sought after by the Roman persecutors, and they were going to hide him away, and they were going to lie for him. And he said, no, I want to go to my martyrdom. You can't stop me from doing that. So sometimes even our best intents can be foiled by...
All right. Peter Robinson asks, how often should someone go to confession?
Wow. And that's very, very cultural. Very cultural. Again, as I've mentioned before, Russians, Antiochians, Romanians tend to stay on a 3-month cycle. 10. So every 3 months they feel that it's appropriate then to go for confession, because they are very, very serious about and for very orthodox reasons, that you cannot receive the sacrament of Eucharist without the sacrament of confession. That is Orthodox policy, okay, whether you like it or not. And now, all 3 of my parish parishioners, Kalamazoo, Flint, and Rochester, are all hearing that and going, "What? What?" Yes, that is actual Orthodox sacramental theology, is that confession goes hand in hand with communion. In the Russian Church, if you approach, the priest knows whether you have come to confession or not, and he will withdraw the spoon if he knows that you haven't been there for confession. In the Greek Church, Greek Orthodox Church, we don't hold to those rules like we should. It's certainly not right, okay, but we don't hold to those rules. We encourage strongly that you come to communion, but we don't hold the parishioners to denying them the sacrament of communion without the sacrament of confession. So it's not as well practiced at all in the Greek Orthodox culture.
We have some follow-ups to the deception question. Maria King asks, so does this mean that the end justifies the means? And Diane adds, it's all about doing the right thing, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Well, that is true. So the first one is the Orthodox do not believe that the end justifies the means, because that has been used to justify war. So if they're already doing evil, then we need to do the appropriate amount of evil to counteract that. So even though it's evil what we're doing, which is killing innocent civilians as collateral damage due to a war, the end that we're trying to achieve justifies that. So the Orthodox Church does not believe in end justifies the means. So the answer to that question is no. As far as good intentions, Diane has hit it right on the head. Technically, it is the road to hell is paved with the skulls of those with good intention, right? So with that one, we've got to be very careful that the intention that we are intending is that which glorifies God, and not which glorifies man.
All right. Orthodox Potato asks.
I love that name.
Has a question about divine hiddenness when it pertains to non-resistant non-belief. For some people who truly seek God, why doesn't he always reveal himself to them if they are truly seeking relationship?
Well, if you speak to the monks of Mount Athos, or if you speak to the monks of our monasteries, he has revealed himself, because that is that cloud of witness that the monks talk about. That is that uncreated light that they witness. That is God. They witness God. Okay, but that comes with a very, very prayerful life. So we have seen God withdraw from man's presence. He was physically, obviously physically, but he was present face to face with Adam and Eve. He spoke to them. There was a conversation, okay? In Moses, he spoke face to face. All right? Elijah spoke face to face. But as we move forward, we see that God moves further and further away, and now he appears in images, or he appears in dreams, prophecies, and now, he has really become more transcendent. And he is visible through the uncreated light only to those who really have that life, that true life in God. Most of us are, if not 99% of us, are so wrapped up in our secular world that we do not have that devotion to God to be able to see that uncreated light. So as much as it is possible, and it is, because we see it in the monks, it is almost impossible for us with our day-to-day secular living. This is why for the monks, they are removed from that. Now, again, they're not isolated, because they still return, but they have devoted themselves entirely to prayer. And how many of us can say that?
Is there a biblical justification for divine hiddenness?
You mean that?
Like, is there an explanation in the Bible for why God remains hidden? I mean, wouldn't it be easier? I'm just playing. I'm just going to ask a question that I'm sure many people are thinking of. But wouldn't it be easier if God made His presence known? Like, why would He have to hide Himself?
Well, I mean, and we actually have that in. And I have to find it again. We actually have that. Whether in the Old Testament, I can't remember if it's in the Psalms. I'm sure our listeners will come up with this, where he says, "And I searched for you in the thunder, and I searched for you in the crashing of the waves, but you were not there. You were in the silence." What God is telling us is that we also need to seek Him. Okay, so He's not this vainglorious giant that reaches out and said, "I am God, listen to me." So He seeks us out, but we have to approach Him. And where we find Him is in the silence of prayer.
It would be a little difficult to have free will if you see God up in the sky every day. Now, wasn't that one of the gifts that we were given, is free will?
Well, but we did. I mean,
Yeah.
People saw Jesus Christ. They saw His miracles, and they still chose to go away from Him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I believe that or not. I mean, yeah, maybe a resounding voice, but once you hear that voice every day, like everything, you get used to it. I mean, they got used to Jesus, right? And because okay, he's a prophet, he does these miracles, but the Son of God, I don't know about that.
That's an interesting point.
All right. And then another question from Orthodox Potato. How should we respond to family or friends that aren't Christian that take Jesus' name in vain? I dislike it, so is it my duty to say something or let them freely choose to say what they want?
Well, okay, I'll tell you this from both from experience, from both President and I. We say something, okay? We've made it. It took us a little while to get there, but we finally got there. We make it very well known that we do not appreciate that type of behavior through our facial expressions, through just a flat out saying that we would prefer that you not use that language. So now we freely tell people that we do not prefer that language. If they continue that language, then we just leave. I mean, again, as Dimo said, free will. We can't stop them, but we do not have to be in their presence. So in that case, we do believe that silence is acceptance. And we have absolutely no qualms about telling and you said they're friends, telling our friends, we would prefer that you not use that language when you are in our company. Now, what they do when they're on their own.
Well, we don't really, now I don't think we know anybody who does that.
Well, there are the two that are the most common. The GD, is very common. to the point they don't even, they don't censor
No.
it.
I still think the F word is the most common.
No,
That
no,
is the
I-
most.
the two.
The blasphemous ones. Yeah.
And of course, if you're in the Northeast, you're gonna hear, people saying, Christ or Jesus Christ in exclamation.
Those are
the two you're gonna find a lot.
Right. So I think those. You're right. I think those are probably the two. But have absolutely no qualms about making yourself known. There's nothing wrong with that. It took, like I said, it took us a little while to do that and to recognize that that's the right thing to do. Those who deny me before my Father will deny them. I will deny them before Him. Right?
You before.
You before my Father. Right. Okay, so, take a stand. But if they're strangers or you're in a place where the conversation is just something that you don't appreciate, okay, then you have to separate yourself from that. Those are not people that you should be around. Okay. So
I would just say that if you do take the stand, just don't be a jerk. Just be nice and explain that it's something that bothers you. I have seen the extreme before, where people react so like you murdered a hamster or something in front of them. And
I like hamsters.
Exactly. So I just be human in your communication is what I would say.
Oh.
Yeah. Demos is saying that because of me, because I can be a jerk sometimes, and just I can be a little more forceful than I need to be. Hey, look, once in the military, always in the military.
I wasn't referring to you. I was actually referring to a particularly funny story that's too long to say here.
It's probably a story about me. So
No.
So I see and I don't want to go down and I'll lose my place, but I see we just got a super chat from someone.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Diane.
Hey, Diane, thank you very much.
No particular question attached, but the moment I see a question, I'll make sure to call.
By the way, Diane, you and Ted, welcome back from your travels. Nice to have you back here. And we got to get down and we got to visit.
Yes, we do.
Oh, she does say earlier, Happy Ecclesiastical New Year.
Oh, that's right.
That's
today.
right. That's right. Today, yes.
September today.
It's the beginning of a new season.
It's the beginning of a new liturgical year. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Technically, I should have done an Ayasmo today. The great Ayasmo should be done on the beginning of the liturgical year. Here I am admitting my faults on live TV or live YouTube.
Live computer.
and forever, because it's not just a one-time admitting faults. Can be replayed over and over.
I'll be on repeat. Yes, I've made a mistake.
All right. Fyodor Dostoevsky asks, what is the church's view on pronouns? They have become so mainstream and accepted nowadays that it is irritating.
We have two: he, she. That's the only pronouns that we have in the church. Now, having said that, that is not to deny that I'm not making light of the situation. That is not to deny that there are not valid incidences of
gender dysphoria.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. There are not valid instances of gender dysphoria. We are not in any way making light of that fact. But there still remains for us only two pronouns. So if that person, let's say, transitioned, okay, they're going to carry, or we're going to associate the pronoun with who that person identifies with. Yeah.
All right.
But if somebody were to come into church, okay, and when you're giving them anditheron, okay, at the end, and they tell you that their pronouns are ze or they, what is your response to that?
That's an easy one, because I'm going to call you by your name. So I don't refer to them in pronoun form. So that's, if they confront me with it, I'll just say I don't use the pronoun. I use your name that you were given. Okay? So whatever your baptized name is what I'm going to use.
That's a good point. Now that I think about it, that argument is a little crazy, because when I'm standing in front of the person,
you're never using.
I'm never, it's impolite to use a pronoun. You only use a pronoun if they're, not present for the most part.
All right, but if I were talking to
Yeah.
you, I would still use the he/she pronoun. I would not use other pronouns because they identify as one or the other, right? So I would use the he or she pronoun if I was talking to you.
That opens up a big can of worms,
Oh, yeah.
to be honest. So I mean, essentially from an Orthodox biblical perspective, there's he or she.
Right.
But if you're out in public and you meet somebody, and they ask you, like you said earlier, like what they feel more comfortable in being addressed as, would you do that, or are you gonna
No, again, I just use their name.
Yeah,
if I'm
'cause-
talking to them, I'm going to use their name.
But my point is, like, if you can tell people that it bothers you that they use the Lord's name in vain, from those same token, can somebody tell you that it bothers them if you don't use the words that they identify with?
Well, see, I don't know if I equate those two the same because when you're using those two examples, like, JC or using GD, okay, that is, you are being offensive to something that I worship. So I have just cause for not wanting you to do that. Okay. In the other case, okay, I mean, all right, fine. The Zet, you said?
No, there are a bunch of them.
Okay.
They, ze,
All right.
ze,
It does.
Koniqua,
Right. I mean, I'm not. There's nothing offensive about that against the Orthodox religion, right? So in that case, I mean, if they made a big enough deal about it, then I'd probably say, you know what? Okay, you're not insulting my Christian faith.
Yeah, it's a tough one. The one thing I can say is that I've known a few trans people in the past. I've asked them that question about the pronouns, and for a majority of them have come back to me and pretty much said a variation of they've fought their entire lives to be what they're transitioning into.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be labeled as something else. So I don't know. I think a lot of this also tends to be cultural nowadays, and you know how culture shifts.
Yeah, I mean, we only currently have two identities right now, right? I mean, or
New York State recognizes, I think, 32. So
okay, but well, okay, and again, we live in the secular world, but we are not secular. Ooh, interesting discussion on that one. All right,
it's a tough one. It's a tough one on YouTube.
All right. You ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jacob Cash asks, "Hey, Father, have you heard about the saint that was canonized yesterday?"
No, I did not. Does he say who it is?
Not in that question. I don't know. Was it Orthodox saint? And then, yes, just comments that your earlier Oshawa question was far too easy.
While Father's looking it up, to answer the second question from Jacob, who says, "Make a video about liturgical colors and your vestments." We actually already filmed 4 videos as part of a 12-part series. No joke, 12-part series on vestments that will be starting to come out probably the beginning of October. But yes, we have a video about colors. We got a video about styles. We got a video about every single item of a vestment. So that's coming soon.
Yeah.
Okay, it says here, May 15, 2022, Pope Francis on Sunday recognized 10 new saints in the Catholic Church. So if we're talking about the Catholic Church, all right, recently canonized Orthodox saints.
I'm very curious. I mean, Jacob didn't necessarily say it was Orthodox. It was just a saint was canonized yesterday. It could be maybe in Catholic as well.
But you just looked up the Catholic site and they didn't mention anything.
Yeah,
Tell you what, you guys continue. I'll look it up.
All right.
okay, because the latest one that I have is St. John of Shanghai in San Francisco, canonized in 1994.
No, this said yesterday, so
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to find out who that was.
Okay.
All right. Nico the Greek. Hi. Hope all. Nico the Greek T, it says. Sorry, I left part of it out. Hope all is well. I was wondering your opinion on old calendar, whether you think the new calendar churches will ever revert back.
Whether the old calendar church will revert?
No,
new
calendar will
no.
revert back to.
No, I don't think that. I think, in fact, I think here in America, again, remember we talk about America. I think here in America, what we are destined for is an agreement on a singular date for Pascha. So I think we're even moving further away from that the old calendar style from the Julian calendar. So I think what's going to happen here in America is that there's going to be discussions between the Orthodox and Catholic Church here, and that we're going to unify on a single date. So I think in that sense, no, I don't see us ever going back.
I have an answer.
Okay.
From goarc.org as of Wednesday, August 31st. So apparently His Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew signed the Synodal Act of Canonization of Saint Vissarion, the Agathonite.
The
Agathonite.
okay.
Together with the hierarchs of the Holy Synod.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay, I did not hear about that, so I don't know what the. You sure it's not Athonite?
It says Agathonite.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to. Well,
We'll discuss this more next week. Because they're like it's an entire article about it. I don't.
Oh, I wonder if it's someone who followed. Is there a Saint Agatha? Maybe it was someone who followed Saint Agatha. I don't know. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And next up, Lazari. Hello, God bless you, dear people. My question is this: is hell eternal suffering, or just total obliteration of the unbelievers, like the theory annihilationism? What is the Orthodox teaching on this?
So remember, we have I wrote a paper on hell. One hell of a paper. Wrote one on heaven, one wrote on hell, and remember, through the history of the church, there has been four basic views. Annihilism is one that the Orthodox Church has rejected. The created soul cannot die or cannot perish. So we do not believe that that hell is the obliteration of now that soul, meaning that your consciousness is totally gone. In terms of eternal torment, that would be closer to Orthodox thought. Now, the question is that eternal torment what we have traditionally come to know as the lake of fire and eternal pain and torment and suffering, and to some extent what we've seen in the pericope about Lazarus and the rich man. Or there is also that has been thought that has been brought up by some of the Orthodox theologians, both old and in the patristic era and modern, which is that it is a total isolation from God, so that you're not in His presence. That one's a little bit tougher because God is everywhere. So in that sense, I think it's more temperate to say that you're not isolated, but the fact that you live in total agony because of being in the presence of God, that you have denied Him, and that presence then is your suffering. So we've got two thoughts on that. But annihilationism is out, and an eternal torment is one of the more common ones. Eternal salvation, which was also proposed, I'm trying to remember if that was Origen or not, that has also been declared as heretical too.
Eternal salvation.
I mean, universal. Sorry.
Oh, it's like, uh-oh.
We're in trouble.
Oh, we're in trouble now. That's going to be played back forever. Father Angelo denies eternal
You
salvation.
made me afraid. I'm like, what?
See, this is why you're here. Okay.
Well,
what
I
I
think Dee
meant.
we were going to say something.
I was looking ahead and I look up. I'm like, what?
No.
I'm in the wrong religion.
Oh, it's been no. Universal salvation is heretical. Okay.
It's getting hot in here. Well, now that we have
man.
that cleared up.
Well, there's another one for the blooper reels.
Freddie Russo's, Father, your blessing. Question, who are the two witnesses in Revelations 11 verses 3 through 12? And I have it at the ready if you would like.
Oh. Oh, you know why because I'm looking for commentary.
Ooh, your page.
I see. I turned the page too fast.
I see that.
And
3 through 12. 11, 3 through 12.
11.
3 would be the end.
Okay. Well, that's why I love this. The identity of the two witnesses is much disputed. The most common opinion of the church fathers is that they represent Elijah and Enoch, who are believed to have ascended into heaven. In Jewish tradition, Moses is frequently substituted for Enoch on the basis of the tradition that he ascended to heaven. It was Moses who appeared with Elijah at the transfiguration of Jesus. John, the author here, most likely drew on Jewish tradition that Elijah would return. Although Jesus identified the Elijah figure with John the Baptist, many continue to believe in the actual appearance of Elijah before the end. So Elijah and Enoch.
Oh, all right. Ooh, Enoch. He was the one that was walked
With God and was no more.
Oh, all right. Well, good. Orthodox potato. A lot of people criticize God's laws in Leviticus in regard to owning slaves, stoning to death for punishment, etc. What is the church's and saints' comments or views on the old Levitical laws?
Oddly enough, we just filmed a video about this too, a Sunday school video.
So,
wow, you guys are timely.
Yeah.
so now they're asking about what do we do with those laws?
What do the saints in the church? How is that view on the old Levitical laws?
Okay, so as St. Paul said, you are no longer under the law. You are now made free. Okay, Jesus himself says, I do not treat you as servants, I call you friends. All right. But Jesus also said, do not think that I have come to abolish the law, I have come to fulfill it. Okay, in fulfilling it, he gave us now the two commandments of what ties together the Old Testament and the New Testament. And that is, love the Lord your God and love one another as I have loved you. So in that sense, he has fulfilled now what the two books, what the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition gives us, is that it is based on love, as Saint John would say. So from that perspective, that's the tie-in that we have, and now we can understand St. Paul's words, which said, you are now free from the law, but you are not free from the fulfillment of the law, which are the two commandments that Christ gave us.
Okay, all right. I never know how to say this. X-A.
Zsa Gabor?
Yes,
No.
yes, that's
Yeah.
Gza.
Zah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zah. Anyway, Zah's question. What are the list of sexual sins a married couple can fall into that is not allowed?
Well, okay, right at the top of the list is adultery. Okay, that's probably right at the top of the list. And second would be rape. And we've defined that as any time that one partner has forced himself upon the other partner without the other partner's permission. Okay, so those would be the absolutely at the top, the number two things, the top sexual sins. I don't know. Do we?
Well, I mean, I just to be more, I mean, those are very, very specific. But what about? And I'm just going to expand on what I think might also be meant by this question.
I knew you were going to do. That's why.
But what if, like, are there any, couples have fetishes and so forth? Are there any fetishes that they're both willing participants here, that the church would say, no, you're not allowed to do that in the privacy of your bedroom?
The church doesn't get into your bedroom business. That's just not our place. I have to stay with the point that you cannot allow a third party into your marriage, nor can you disgrace or mar the image and likeness of God in the other person. That's it. Those are the only two prohibitions that we have. That's why I mentioned those two. Okay. Other than that, it is not our business to involve ourselves in what you do in your own bedroom. This is why the bishops advise the priests to be very, very careful when people in their parishes have monastics as their spiritual fathers, because sometimes they ask questions that are improper, about what are you doing here, and are you having this kind of sex, and how many times do you do this kind of sex, and they're living vicariously through the confessions that they're hearing, and I'm not saying certainly not all monks are doing this, but we've had some unfortunate situations in those areas. Okay. So what the church is concerned about is that we value the image and likeness of God in each person, and that we value their free will, and that we do not introduce a third party into the union that God has brought these two people together with. And that's it.
What if would it be considered a sin if one person in the marriage said, I want, hey, I want to try this, and the other one is uncomfortable, and then the other one is pressuring them.
That's wrong.
To do that? Would that be considered?
Yeah, that's a sin. That's a sin.
Okay.
I mean, there's no harm in asking. Okay, but if the other person is, like you said, uncomfortable with it or unwilling to do it, then the answer is no.
All right, and then I just jumped down.
Well, while you're looking, I'll read. Nicholas says that my dad in his church uses a number of Byzantine wine for Holy Communion.
Well, you got to be more specific than that. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider Commanderia Byzantine wine, so I'm just curious as to what the name of the Byzantine wine is.
It might be. I'm trying to think if that is the name.
Oh,
he capitalized it as if it was a title. Used number, and I don't know if there's a number they got omitted, but it says number Byzantine wine. Maybe that is the brand name. I don't know.
Okay.
And Trench asks, Patriarch Athenagoras said that God has left the Orthodox Church. What does that mean? The synod are all in cahoots. I don't know if that's a comment but.
So Athenagoras said God has left the Orthodox Church?
Yeah, have you heard about this?
Oh, and Athenagoras was a worse ecumenist than Bartholomew. I mean, he was persecuted for his relationships. I mean, he had a very, very good relationship not only with the Catholic Church but also with the Protestant Church. I mean, he was a man way ahead of his time in terms of ecumenism, and he was persecuted for that. So, I mean, Patriarch Bartholomew is nothing compared to that. So I can't imagine. I mean, I got to find where he said where he said that in particular.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we got a super chat
from Diane.
Oh, thank you, Diane. Once again, wow.
Yes, and Diane just comments that it's not talking about the monastics and going for confession, all that. It's not necessarily the monastics. Men will always be men.
And she is right, because there are also some priests who will ask very, very personal questions that they shouldn't be asking. So good catch on that, Diane. Very well said.
Yes. Oh, now I gotta find my place again. Oh, here we go. No, that's not it.
Famicon Mike. Hello, Father. I'm curious. Are you allowed to wear normal casual clothes when you aren't doing any pastoral duties? And they asked because they saw one of your YouTube shorts where you're wearing shirts and jeans.
So the answer to the question is an obvious.
No, you're sitting on camera. No,
that's right.
Well, you would have preferred to have not been wearing that, but you forgot to pack your thing.
No, but I mean, okay. Even if I packed the collar and I did a tartan priest like that, I would still be wearing jeans and a nice shirt when we went out to the restaurant or were touring around. So I would still I would still do that. So yes, I wear jeans. I do not wear my robe when I go golfing. Okay, now
or swimming
or swimming.
Because we had that at the seminary.
And this is where America is very, very different from Europe. Orthodox priests in those countries, in other Orthodox lands, that andri is on all the time, including swimming. If they go swimming, they swim with the andri. So America is very, very unique in that. And trust me, we've been highly criticized for, wearing civilian clothes. And so but that is an American phenomenon.
All right.
So 1 year when I was in Scotland, but you weren't with me that time because I was there for other reasons, and I was in Edinburgh and I went to St. Andrews, and St. Andrews is just a little church that's little Orthodox church that's there, very, very small, not much bigger than maybe twice the size of the room that we've got here.
Well, they can't see the room here.
Oh yeah, okay, well, okay.
Big room.
Okay, but yeah, not a big place, and I happened to show up there because I was on business. Well, not church business. So I was wearing regular clothes. So I rang the buzzer. And expecting that the priest was gonna come, but instead, and I don't even want to say the secretary. It was more the caretaker and master of the house, and she says, "Nepiosis, like who is it?" And so I said to her in Greek, I said, "Papa Evangelos από την Αμερική," and she opens up the slide door. She didn't open up the door. She opens the slide window, and she's looking out, and she says, "Then he's a papas, το andari που είναι." So she says, "You're not a priest. Where's your andari?" And so I said, okay. I said, I don't have an andari. I went, I changed, I came back with the collar like this. Came back with this collar. So I said, okay. She says, όχι, καθολικός είσαι τώρα. You're a Catholic. You're not Orthodox. She wouldn't open the door. So finally, so I heard the priest from upstairs. So the priest said, who is it? And she says, in Greek, she says, κάποιος ψεύτης είναι που λέει ότι παπάς είναι. Somebody who's a fake and says he's a priest. And he says, let him in. And she says, no, he's not Orthodox. Not letting him in. He says, let him in. She says, no. So I said, look, go to the big red book. I said, go to the big red book. I'm not going to slam it on the thing. And you'll find, look it up, Evangelos Maggos, right? And at the time
that
it was
doesn't look like you at all.
Yeah, right. Okay, and I was at Flint at the time, right? And I said, από τη κοίμηση Theotokos, she said, look it up. So she goes and she looks it up in the book and she finds my name. You know what she says? Ταυτότητα. She says, where's your driver's license? And she took the driver's license and the book, and she looked at me, and then she opened up the door. She says, πού είναι το andari? Why don't you wear an andari? So then I went upstairs to see the priest. They're very serious about that, so I had to tell that story.
Well, she was anyway. Yeah. Yes.
Very compassionate.
Yes.
So now I know if I'm going there, I gotta.
All right. Our next question is from Aaron. Aaron says, "Hi everyone. Talking about using modern Greek versus Koine Greek in our services,
Ooh.
would a priest be able to just try one service out in modern, or would he need permission first from the bishop?"
Well, we should we we should ask. We should ask. But I would love to do that. I would like to see a modern Greek text of the scriptures that we say on Sunday. I think that would be great, and I think that would be extremely helpful for the Greek population that we have here. I think they'd get much more out of it. I don't think that a lot of them, because again they don't have more than a grade school education. I don't think they really know what they hear. They hear a few words, and their parents told them what it was, but to hear it in the actual spoken Greek, I think would be very beneficial. Yeah, I'd love to. If somebody out there has a text of the liturgy in modern Greek, I'd love to get a copy of it.
Do you need to get permission?
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to get permission from the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
He'd get a call if you didn't.
That's right. He's watching right now, so he wants to make sure that is the right answer.
Maybe he is.
If he is, he should like and subscribe.
He should like and subscribe and add to our membership.
Speaking of our bishop, we'll have to say something about that at the end, about something.
Oh, yes,
I'll,
yes.
I'll save that for the end. It's nothing that important. Frank Pontone asks, is there a book or a set of books that you can recommend containing the most essential patristic writings?
Well, I think the starting point for that is the Philokolia. The Philokolia is probably the starting point because that's a wonderful collection of writings from the not the totality of it, but it is certainly is a starting point as I think is a volume 1, volume 2. So I think that's a great starting point.
Well, for those who don't know, what are the patristic writings?
So those would be the writings of the patristic fathers. Okay.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the fathers from, let's say, the 4th century to about the 7th or 8th century. Okay. So we're talking about people like St. John Chrysostom, St. Basil, St. Gregory, obviously the three hierarchs, St. Athanasius. We're also talking about some of the not necessarily like Ambrose, Augustine, Clement. Those would be like early church fathers, but patristic is that period from the 4th century on. Okay, Saint Gregory of Palamas. So those would be. Now there is a collection. Now it's not a single collection, but there is also any Protestant church will always have this catalog of books that they sell, like Zondervan and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they've always got in there on sale. They've got a collection of the Ante-Nicene Fathers. Okay, and those include the patristic fathers, and there's about 8 volumes of that. So you can get that also. But the Philokolia is probably a good starting point for that collection.
All right. Okay, dokie. Trench asks, do you agree with the following? Archbishop Christodoulos, and in quotes, when our ancestors gave the lights of civilization, they, meaning the Europeans, were living up in trees. Objecting / praising is speaking out of the sin of jealousy or pride. And then I think this continues on, the Archbishop's comment was a response to European disrespect and disregard for Greek culture, civilization, and Orthodox heritage, as well as to combat the foolish neo-Greek trend of feeling ashamed of their culture, thus rushing to adopt anything Western instead.
Wow, that's a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that was,
right.
so... Oh, yes, there we go. I should have done that to start.
Yeah.
Starting here.
comment was a response to the Europeans' respect and disregard.
So Greeks wanted to get away from being Greek and picking up Western things.
Okay, so when he says our ancestors, he's talking about is he talking about the pagan Hellenes, or is he talking about the early Christians? Because if he's talking about the pagan Hellenes, then in Europe, right, that was a barbarous land. If he is talking about our Christian ancestors, we've already shown in our videos that St. Columba in the 300s was already establishing monasteries and was spreading orthodoxy throughout Europe. Okay, so I don't want to. I think that's unfair. And again, depending on what he's talking about, I think it's unfair to say that the Europeans were living in trees in the 300s. I think we were much more intelligent than that. But am I missing something?
No, just.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So sorry. Okay. The Archbishop's comment was a response to European disrespect and disregard for the Greek culture, civilization, as well as to combat. Whether they want to deny it or not, they clearly were influenced in Europe by the Western Fathers. Now, at the time, those Western Fathers definitely were communicating with and were debating with the Eastern Church Fathers. So there was this dialogue. There was a dialogue between, Jerome with Jerome with Ambrose, with Clement, with Ignatius. Those were communicating. Later on, certainly there was discussions between Augustine and then some of the early patristic fathers too, St. Basil and so on. Now, Augustine a little bit earlier than that, but Thomas Aquinas, that comes later. Okay, they're developing theologies that are going to be what became more Western, but they were based in the philosophical ideas of Hellenistic society and using philosophy just as much as the Eastern patristic fathers were. So I think it's unfair to say that the Europeans had a disrespect. Now, if we're talking about disrespect currently, then this is universal, whether it's America, Canada, Australia. Our society now has a disrespect for those early church fathers. We see this many times in, unfortunately, the non-denominational churches, where they don't even know who the fathers are and they don't even care what it is that they wrote. So that is the ultimate disrespect for our early Christian heritage. So we can't confine that to Europe. This is a universal problem that we're having if we're talking about disrespect.
All right. We have a question from Gray Panther. To those who say if God was real or if God really loves us, then why did he let such a thing happen, including being understanding and compassionate, what can we say to them to continue seeking the truth?
Because God's only self-limiting factor is, as Demos mentioned earlier, is our free will. And God has self-limited himself to not impinge upon our free will. So he can stand ready to accept us, but he cannot force us. So the evils that we have perpetuated upon this planet and upon ourselves are things that we have done to ourselves. We have initiated wars. Okay? Now, we can talk about diseases too, and those diseases were initiated through the original sin. Okay? So God is not the author of evil, God is not the author of disease, but through now that original sin of Adam and Eve, we have disease in the world, and that disease does not play favoritism over a 6-month-old child or a 92-year-old man, both suffering from cancer. Okay, so there's no discrimination in diseases. But in addition to that, we bring our evils upon ourselves. And Satan and his demons, then, is the one who continues to make sure that we perpetuate these evils upon one another. And the greatest lie of all, which is the current lie, is he says, how can you, people who actually believe in light bulbs and electricity, believe in something so silly and stupid as a creator God? And this is now the latest of the heresies that we have.
All right. So did you touch on, because I was having to read ahead, so I missed some of what you said. Did you touch on what to say when they say, if God really loves us, then why did he let such a thing happen?
And the answer is, again, he self-limited himself to allow us to use our free will. And we have used, many times we use our free will improperly. And his hope is that of the prodigal father, is that in the depths of our filth and our sin and our wrong living, is that we will recognize now that this is not the way to live, and that we will repent and turn back to him, and he will be waiting there with open arms. But these decisions we have to come to ourselves. He is not the God who forces himself upon us.
All right. Helper of Man asks, what's the
Helper
difference?
of Man, wow, what a very altruistic title. I love that.
What is the difference between the Orthodox Eucharist and the Catholic Eucharist?
Nothing. I mean, other than the fact that, we're using bread and they're using a wafer, but the theology of communion is the same. The difference comes in that the Catholic Church, wants to explain the mechanism through words like transubstantiation, and the Orthodox only uses the word mystery. But we truly believe together that this is the body and blood of Jesus Christ that is tinctured into the elements, and that each element, the bread and the wine, while retaining their elemental properties, is tinctured with the body and blood of Jesus Christ that remains there.
Okay. We have a question from Bentley Goodwin. I like that. In regards to the filioque controversy, why will neither side accept that the dispute was not so much about conflicting dogmas as it was about the different theologoumena, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Or theological perspectives?
Well, first off, the Catholic Church has acquiesced, and they have said that the creed can be said either way. So the Catholic Church has already said it is fine to say that. All right. And I think I just had a paper on this too that I wrote. What this really has boiled down to is a semantic difference in language in terms of the filioque. That what we're not saying. Well, actually, let me put it better. It's a semantic difference between the word through, so that the Holy Spirit now proceeds from God through the Son, or of the Son. And so what we have is we have a Latin translation that can be interpreted, where the word through can be interpreted in either manner. So both the Orthodox and the Catholic Church believe that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father. There's no difference in that. The question was through the Son or by the Son. And what the Catholic Church is saying is that the semantics of the translation of that into Latin with the word that they used can allow for both definitions to be proper, but that the proper definition is through.
All right. We have another super chat from Diane, and she asked me to read.
Wow, she's a triple. Wow.
Well, this is a very serious one,
Yes,
actually.
yes.
Oh.
She said, please respond to a question by count 38. Hello, everyone. Pray for my friend Saku's health. He is trying to commit suicide by overdose currently. Unfortunately, he is not baptized as Orthodox, but knows of the faith.
Well,
If it's currently, I'm with Diane that you need to intervene right now.
and do
It says you must stop him and help him.
Because it says currently trying to overdose.
oh well okay. And if you're currently trying to overdose, the answer is no. Is that certainly you are loved. Certainly you are an image and likeness of God, and that depression that you are feeling right now is what.
Well, it's a friend of this person, not the person
Well,
that wrote.
this way you
I'm
you
giving-
would tell your friends so
That's,
too.
okay,
I
yeah,
see, sorry.
yeah. I thought they were listening, but still, okay.
Play it back for them.
Play it back for them. Okay, but the depression is demonic, and what it forces us into thinking is that we are not of value, and that we do not have a place in society. And the answer to that is no. We are the image and likeness of God, each and every one of us, and we each have a place. And that there are people that want us to be in their lives. And that, at least from an Orthodox perspective, suicide becomes the selfish the selfish mechanism, because there are people that depend on us for love and for help and for compassion and for general company. And it's not proper for us to deny those people our presence, because each one of us now has that light of God. So just remember, that depression doesn't come from you. It comes from a demonic source, and it tries to convince you that you are not of value. And that is the furthest thing from Orthodox theology.
I would also add, everybody at one point or another has, that thought enters their mind, right? Now, this person is actually actively trying to do it. But, I can say that, there are times in my life that things got bad and the thought momentarily crossed my mind, right? If I had acted on that, I would have lost so much in my own life, so much happiness that came later. In those dark moments, I didn't think that, I'd be running a show that's helping, thousands of people, or that I would be on the brink of marriage, or I'd be, at a good path in my life now, so things may look really bad right this moment, but think about all the happiness you'll be depriving, not just from yourself, but all the family members or future spouses or children, etc. It is a butterfly effect.
Yeah.
And remember, the Orthodox Church believes that out of struggle comes a newly refined strength.
Okay. All right. He does mention that this person is a friend of a friend,
Oh, okay.
and that friend is not someone they're really in touch with.
Oh,
But apparently they're sending the video to them.
okay, well, there you go.
All right.
We have a lot of questions in, and we're gonna end in just a few moments. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw out a couple real quick. From
The
Greek,
lightning round, is that what this is?
a very quick lightning round. Greek 70 says, "Did you hear that Metropolitan Callistos died the 24th of August?"
Yes, and on Sunday, for those of you that tuned in, I added his name to our Trisayon, to our Mimosinal service that we did in church. So we did a Mimosinal service for Bishop Callistos.
And Matthew asks, "Isn't there a day in the fasting calendar that someone can eat olives but not eat olive oil, or vice versa?"
Yeah.
Which has come up a lot recently.
Yes, it has.
But
Yeah,
it's the olive oil that you can't eat, but the
Right.
olives you can.
Yeah, the olives you can. It's the olive oil that can't be eaten.
Why? And we have answered that, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the idea that, again, coming from St. Basil, that we should fast from those luxury items. Meat was a luxury item, and to some now, if you go into Wegmans, it is a luxury item. And the hand pressing of olive oil was also a very expensive process. So olive oil was very expensive. Okay, but the olives themselves, as far as I know, are not part of the fasting regime.
And a final question, because it kind of wraps up what we started talking with when it came earlier to pronouns and so forth. Aaron asks, if someone who is LGBTQ comes into the church and goes up to receive communion, should they be allowed to receive, or should communion be withheld? Just curious, as we have a trans person in our parish who receives regularly.
They're an image and likeness of God. I'm assuming that they are not making a scene or being offensive or trying to make a political stand. They are an Orthodox Christian who wishes to come and receive communion. I mean, guaranteed, there are priests that will not offer them communion. And there are priests that will offer them communion. Okay. So in that sense, I can't speak for the other priests, but if that person comes to the church and they're an image and likeness of God, and I've gotten to know who that person is, okay, then.
All right. So just throwing this out, I'm not saying this is anybody does this, but is it the spirit and how it's receiving? What if they're coming up just to be seen, and
that's what I'm saying. If they're coming up with political motivations, okay, then that's inappropriate. They're just taking it, literally taking it, right?
So
then
would you deny that?
Yeah.
Then?
So in that sense, I would. And then in coffee hour, we'd have a discussion, and I'd say, look, this is not the appropriate place to make a political stand.
Well, that can apply to anyone regardless of sexuality.
Absolutely. If somebody comes in and says only Republicans are taking communion in our church, or only Democrats are taking, then that's inappropriate, right? So you're right.
I would say, I mean, the individual is going to church, so they're obviously on a good path in and of that. The fact they're going to church. I like to see if the person who I'm not saying Aaron is this person, obviously, but if there's another person there that would complain about it, and see who goes to church more often. This trans individual who's going and receiving communion, or the person complaining about it.
We do have another a super chat from Tommy. Is smoking a sin? I know monks smoke like chimneys.
So do I. When monks? I went to
Have you seen monks smoking?
I've seen monks smoking. Oh yeah. Oh man.
The Greek monks. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what causes all the heat in Greece for the summer.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Smoking is not a sin. Again, smoking, like anything, to excess, can border on sinful behavior.
All right. It's the temple of God and all that. Smoking doesn't. Body is the temple of God. Smoking, that wouldn't be
a desecration of the body.
I'm just asking.
You're doing something that is purposely damaging.
Well, then we got to put liquor in there too, right?
And McDonald's.
And
ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, we can't be hypocritical here. If we're going to say smoking is a sin, even in moderation, then we got to cut out alcohol. And you're right.
Smoking is not a sin.
Then we got to cut out, McDonald's. You're absolutely, or we don't want to pick on McDonald's, Burger King, Eat at Joe's, all those places, right? Because of gluttony.
Well, gluttony, and I think, obesity.
Obesity,
leads is like the number one
right.
cause of,
and even without that, it still is bad for the body in terms of hiding cholesterols and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's everything when it comes to. Obviously, because you're aware of the health effects that it causes. We wouldn't advise anybody to start. Obviously.
Look. If you want to be honest, I've probably just by the amount of incense that I use, I've probably smoked more than you have.
So.
Well, I love the smell of incense.
Well, I want to address one last one, just because Trench says my question was skipped.
Uh-oh.
And he was the first one. Trench was the first one here, and I'm sorry if I skipped it. I did not see it at the top of the list. Trench asks, can a person be Orthodox if they are Marxists or communist, since atheism was the official doctrine of the Communist Party?
Well, if you're atheist, then and you're right. Marx did call religion the opiate of the masses, right? Okay. So atheism was the official quote unquote religion of the Soviet Union. So no, they're not Orthodox.
Well, there's always a public and a private image, you know. If there, you have to think about in terms of the Soviet Union, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
If you said you were a Christian, or you said you're practicing privately in your house, you would be in trouble. So there are a lot, I assume, that practice privately, and the same is going on in China,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. But if you believe and you push the doctrines that go against those beliefs, then I'd say that, then you're a hypocrite. If you're actively pushing for those doctrines.
Which
if you're actively pushing for communism or Marxism, knowing that atheism.
Oh yes, yes, right, right. Yes, if you're pushing to be a Marxist or a communist, knowing that their doctrine is atheism, then you are not Orthodox. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there is a follow up here, and I see where everybody's going. So the Retri report says on Mount Athos, elders have said that smoking is incense to the devil. And Rebecca points out that secondhand smoking that's damaging to others is more of a problem.
We can't deny that.
Yeah. I say don't invite anything, don't invite anything that smoking is an unnecessary evil. And it's also one of the hardest things to quit.
So drinking alcohol is unnecessary? That's necessary?
No, I'm just saying that if you have a choice to begin or not.
Oh, yeah. If you have a choice to begin, you could say the same thing about alcohol.
But there's a difference. With alcohol, and yes, alcoholism is a big deal, right? And there are many that suffer from that, and it is a disease. But the thing is that you can still enjoy alcohol in moderation, okay, without the overt bad health effects.
Okay, yes.
But with smoking, and I know many people that they start smoking just socially. They would have one or two at a party, right?
Right.
And that would be the only time, and then before they knew it, they're smoking a pack a day.
Right.
So it's not something that you can start in moderation because it's going to lead to something. And maybe there are a few individuals we can.
But generally speaking, right. It's definitely a growth habit, But I've just known way too many priests and other clerics that smoke. So I see what you're saying, but it just seems hypocritical for me. On one hand, if we're going to use the argument of that, that the body is the temple of God, which it is, okay. But we're going to be very specific about cigarettes, but we're not going to include coffee, or we're not going to include alcohol, caffeine, and we're not going to include those things. I want to be careful. You're absolutely right that the difference with smoking is that even in moderation, smoking will cause deleterious effect. You like that word? I knew that word. That will cause deleterious effects upon the body, and in that sense, it's unhealthy.
Caffeine might actually be the worst drug that we have legal in America, to be honest. Have you ever, I drink a lot of coffee, and if I go a couple of days without it destroys you.
Yeah, and I get headaches in the morning, and
we give Coca-Cola, which is second only to Mountain Dew is having the most out of regular sodas. We give these to like 5-year-olds. We give soda to children.
Well, at least we did take the cocaine out of the Coca-Cola.
Oh,
we did do that. We did do that.
The most fun No, I'm just kidding.
There was we were looking at banned commercials or things that used to be, and they had about Coca-Cola, and it said, when is it too early to give a baby Coca-Cola? And it said, it's not soon enough.
So that for newborns, that was the drink of choice. What could be more nutritious?
All right.
So-
All right. We have a lot of great questions in at the end. I see the Retchie Report in there. Retchie Report, send us your email. You won one of the prizes from our 100th episode, and we need send us an email at agocny@gmail. It's in the description, so we can get you that prize. A lot of great questions in at the end. Rebecca has a great comment. Alcohol in moderation at least benefits the economy. Let me tell you something. If you live in New York State, the cigarettes are so highly taxed that a pack that will cost like what, $5 in Florida costs like 14 up here.
Jeez, that's
So it helps it helps the state economy, I guess.
Or you go to the Indian reservation, you get them for next to nothing.
How do you know all this?
Someone told me.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't smoke. I've never smoked. Well, I've tried them, but I was never.
Well, I know when I was working at Eckerd's in the drugstore in Florida. When I was working at Eckerd's when I was going to college, a carton of cigarettes was $10.
Yeah, when I was 5 years
Carton.
old, my parents would send me into the store to learn how to shop and stuff, and my mom would always tell me, "Get me my carton of cigarettes," but it was $20.
But didn't you? And you said what when you were working at the grocery store? Didn't you say that cigarettes were 35 cents a pack?
No. When I was 12, my friends who smoked would send me to the store. I'd say, they're for my mom, and they'd sell them to me, and they were 35 or 40 cents a pack.
Ooh, so you were lying.
I was lying. Yes,
Okay,
it's true.
Mm-hmm. So
We do have one final super chat
okay.
from Diane.
All right.
Diane, thank you very much. She says, "If your actions make you feel guilty, then they are a sin." Is that universally true? I don't know. Because let's just say this, right? I have, I've had employees in the past, and sometimes if they screw up, if they mess something up, I can feel guilty in telling them when I know they've tried so hard. That's not necessarily a sin because I'm being honest. I feel sometimes being honest can make you feel guilty.
Yeah, but I think she is right. I mean, overall, generally speaking, if you do feel guilty, then there's probably a level of sin in there. And now I don't want to get into the whole venial moral, but there is a sin there. I think that generally speaking, I think that's true because I'm thinking of examples. So if Terry comes to me and she says, "What do you think of my hairstyle?" and I say, "That's not really my favorite hairstyle," and she feels bad because she tried very hard, I would feel guilty. Would there be a sin there? Yes, because I should have taken a much more loving attitude and be more cautious of my comment. Okay, it's not a great sin, okay, but I have marred, to some extent, that.
She's never going to trust your opinion on her hair ever again.
Right.
No, I mean, when I was younger, I thought, I would feel guilty if I ever got married because of all the wonderful young ladies I would be depriving of my presence.
Sin of vainglory. No, so there you go. It's a sin. So,
all right. Well, if we didn't get to your question today, please join us next week. We're on every single Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Our show's getting bigger. We can't answer every single question, but we try to answer at least everybody once. So keep them rolling and
again, we've just to understand too. It turns out that except for when Demo surprises us with the 2-hour program, which is almost, we're trying to keep it at an hour and a half because I know that for those that are watching, it's a lot. After about an hour and a half, I think people are just wiped. You know, so anyway, that's one of the reasons that we try to keep it at the hour and a half. All right. So anyway, hey, thanks for joining us, Presbytera, as always. Thank you for correcting me as I fall into the land of heresy. All right. So you're always there to rescue me. I appreciate that. And we'll see you next week.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. See you on Sunday, actually.
So, yeah, for those of you that are watching, see you on Sunday.